Welcome back, friends. Why is it so many guitar players can run up and down the neck playing scales, but they can't really take a solo? It's called transference, or actually it's a lack of transference. And I'm going to show you how to structure your practice to take advantage of this neurological fact so that you can make maximum progress when you practice guitar. If you're new here, subscribe for more guitar skills, songs, and fun. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, if you need help structuring your practice routine down to the nitty-gritty, what do you do each minute? I want to give you a gift. It's my 5-step guitar practice guide. Find the link in the description or wherever it is, and it is my gift to you. First, what is transference? So transference is when we take some sort of knowledge, for our example here, being able to play a scale, and transfer that knowledge, use that knowledge when we play a song, for example. So we're taking knowledge from one situation, running the scale, and we're using that knowledge in another situation, on the bandstand with a backing track, taking a solo. So we want to know that transference isn't actually the easiest thing to do. If you remember back in high school or whenever you were taking tests last, a lot of times you would know the information, but when the question was presented to you in a slightly different way, all of a sudden you might get the answer wrong, and it feels almost like it was a trick question. And that is a lack of transference, and it happens to us all the time on guitar. We're practicing something, and we go to remember it, but we're in a different situation, and so we can't quite recall or get our fingers to do the thing that we wanted them to do. So how does this information help us structure our practice routine? The number one thing we don't want to do is spend hours and hours every day just running up and down scales where we're not necessarily applying it to anything. We're just playing the scale. Now that's good for our technique. It does help us learn the scale, but what we want to do is we want to start making music with the scale, to take it out of exercise land and put it into music land as quickly as we can. I want to give you 2 examples of how this might work. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to use this A minor pentatonic shape that we all know and love at the 5th fret. And my first order of business is making sure I can play the scale. Now I want you to notice I'm not learning all 5, 10, 12, a million possible shapes that I can play this scale. I'm not learning it in 3 notes per string and diagonal patterns, and I'm picking one scale that I'm going to work on. And this is a great first scale to work on. Once I know this really well, I want to start making patterns with it. And so instead of just running the scale up and down, I'm going to start making patterns. And I'm going to start by doing 4-note groups. So I'll play 4 notes from the first note, and then from the second note I'll play 4 notes. And from the third note I'll play 4 notes. Now this is just an example. You could come up with your own pattern. My 4-note grouping would sound something like this. Now what I want to do is I want to make a progression that's going to help me target these notes. So what I mean by that is instead of just starting on my first note and thinking of it as a pattern, as these unconnected dots, what I instead want to do is I want to think of them as the beginning of a chord. So in this case, I'm starting on A, going up 4 notes. So I might think about an A minor chord. And then the next chord, maybe C major. And then call this one D minor, the next one E minor, and so on. I'm doing this because what I want to do is not just play the 4-note pattern, but hear it as it's resolving to these chords. You can use voice memos on your phone to play that chord progression, even counting out loud so that you have a kind of self-made metronome to pace you. Now, this seems really simple, and it's just a tiny change from running the pattern. It makes all the difference in being able to transfer that knowledge and that muscle memory when it comes time to play a song, not just run a scale. Let's talk about the second way we can use this concept of transference to help us practice. The first thing we need to do is take a chord progression that we know we want to solo over. I'm going to use A minor, F, and then C. Now, I need to take a scale that I know fits with that chord progression. For my case, I'm going to use this A minor pentatonic at 5th fret, just like we were using in the last example. And I'm going to make a little melody. I'm just going to use whole notes. So I'm going to use one note for each chord. I did play the C chord twice, so I'll end up using 2 notes on that one. And so I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on a C for that A minor chord, and then an A over that F chord, and then a C again for the C chord, and then an E for the second measure, that C chord, and then back to a C for the A. Let's hear what that sounds like together. Starting on beat 4, I'm going to play another note to connect the melody notes that I've written. Again, only using my notes in the scale shape that I've chosen. Then we can keep adding more and more to the connector between our initial melody notes, like this. Now this is a very simple example. We're using a really basic scale and an easy chord progression. But you see, I'm able to apply this scale immediately upon learning it to a chord progression and to soloing it. And choosing notes to land on that are directly in the chord. C is in the A minor chord, A is in the F chord, C and E are in the C chord. It puts me inside the progression in my solo. You can mentally hear the chords change, even when I don't play the chords. And that's what's going to allow us to use scales to solo and make our solos stand out. The main point here is we don't want to work on anything in isolation. Chords, scales, licks, riffs, anything. We want to apply it to making music, playing a song, taking a solo, jamming as soon as we can. Make music. Don't just play exercises. Don't forget to use the link below to grab your copy of my 5-step guitar practice guide for free as my gift to you. And remember, it's called playing guitar, not working guitar. Now go have some fun. And YouTube thinks this next video would be great for you. Take a look and let me know if it helps.